Welcome to the 6 Ways to Sunday podcast, hosted by award-winning television director, documentary filmmaker, author, and speaker Craig D. Forrest. Join Craig for the next few minutes as he interviews leaders, artists, and creatives about trends and insights shaping our digital world and faith-based media. This podcast is produced and brought to you by Matchstick Media International. Now, here's Craig.
We've been talking to Phil Cooke, leading producer, director, author, speaker. A wonderful conversation. A third of the people in one church, or some of the examples you're giving, Phil, are giving to the church itself. I was consulting with a church a few years back in Puerto Rico, and I said to the pastor, you know, when you open the service, it's perfectly okay to look at the camera and say, I want to welcome the people who are watching at home, watching wherever you are by live stream. And he looked at me as if I were speaking Russian, Chinese, and Egyptian to him. It's like, no, I only speak to the people in front of me. But I said, your audience eventually could be so much more outside of the four walls of this church. A lot of pastors, a lot of leaders don't see that the 100, 500,000 people that are in their four walls, eventually there could be 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 people watching by live stream as well.
Yeah, you know, it's one of the great problems we all face is we give priority to what's right in front of us.
Yeah.
And you know, for me, it's that stupid email list. It's always staring and calling my name out. I'll postpone working on my new book or postpone writing a script that I need to write for just answering those little pinging emails that keep coming in. So pastors suffer from the fact that they see the people in the congregation and that's what they focus on. When the truth is they could have 2, 3, 5, 10 times as many people watching online as are sitting in that building. And it's a shame that they don't take that audience more seriously.
This podcast features engaging conversations with leaders, artists, and creatives sharing about current trends and insights shaping our digital world and faith-based media. Today's episode is produced by Matchstick Media International, a nonprofit that's passionate about inspiring both visionary leaders and young creatives to harness the power of media to further the gospel. To learn more, visit us at matchstickmedia.org. Now, back to Craig.
We're talking on the podcast today with Phil Cooke, who is a TV producer and director, a cultural commentator, and a consultant. He speaks all over the world. You can find Phil. Just type in Phil Cooke, Cooke, C-O-O-K-E, with an E on the end of it, and he's all over the digital map. It won't be hard to find him, but probably the quickest, easiest way to find him is at philcooke.com, and that sort of is the hub for a lot of places and a lot of content that he produces and projects. Phil, you know, I talk a lot about Bezalels, and if a pastor, leader, anyone in any ministry, missionary, evangelistic, faith-based, nonprofit, whatever it might be, churches, there is a lot of great talent coming up, especially in the DSLR age, the days of having a mobile phone. Mobile technology has changed. When the iPhone came out in 2007, maybe we didn't understand it at the time, but mobile phones, you don't have to have phenomenal production skills as long as you can hold and frame a shot decently, know when to push the record button and how to do it. There are so many young people now that have talents in digital, and yet leaders don't really see it. Talk about that for a moment. I call those the Bezalels, the gifted ones that pastors could use and leaders could use in the future.
Well, you know, it's interesting that in the Middle Ages, the church was a patron of the arts. We didn't just respect the arts. We didn't just enjoy the arts. We were patrons. The church funded talent. They sought out gifted artists like Michelangelo or many of the others and really supported them financially. And I encourage Christians today, you know, we complain that we're not making a bigger impact in places like Hollywood or in the culture. What if we started looking for young people around us that had real skills and talents? I'll tell you something interesting. A friend of mine is a quite successful director and a writer here in Hollywood. And he went to a graduate program here in L.A. for screenwriting a number of years ago. And on the first day of class, the professor said, before we start the semester, I have a guest that I'd like to come in and say a few words. Guy came in. He was from the local gay activist organization here in Hollywood, and he told everybody where he was from, and said, if any students are gay in the classroom, I'll stay out in the hallway. I just love to meet you. And we, as an organization, will help you pay for your college education. We will mentor you while you're here.
Wow.
And when you graduate, we will get you a job in the entertainment industry.
Wow.
And so we wonder why the gay community has had such outsized impact in the entertainment industry and movies and television and the rest of culture. What if that had been a Christian person who said, look, if there's any Christians in this class, I'll be outside to meet you. We'd like to help pay for your education, mentor you while you're here, and help get you a job in the industry when you graduate. You know what? Say what you will about the gay activist organizations. They are very intentional and strategic about what they're trying to do. And as Christians, we could learn from that. I think that's really quite remarkable. So patrons of the arts, it's a big, big issue. And I think for us to truly be successful, I think we need to get back thinking about how we could be patrons and raise up a new generation of creative artists to really engage culture in a very powerful way.
Okay, you bring up a very good topic and a principle. How can faith-based organizations, how can we as Christians be intentional?
Well, there's many ways we can be intentional. I think that, number one, just like we talked about, let's seek out people with talent, help focus on them and put them in places where they could excel, get them into schools, help pay for their education, spotlight those guys, get them up there. Second thing I think we need to do is think of Hollywood more in terms of a mission field instead of the enemy. I don't think many people listening to your podcast will consider Hollywood the enemy, but the truth is there's plenty of churches and members of churches across the country out there that do, and they'd rather boycott Hollywood, they'd rather do a petition drive or complain, and the truth is Hollywood doesn't respond to boycotts or petition drives, they respond to box office. So as Christians, if we would suddenly start supporting good films, if we would start going to films that we believe in and agree with our principles, trust me, Hollywood would notice. And they've already noticed. They've noticed with Passion of the Christ, Mel Gibson's film. They've noticed with Mark Burnett and Roma Downey's projects, the Bible series, AD, the New Easter series. So I think that just being aware of how culture works is a really key part. If we're going to be influential out there and have a place at the table, we need to understand how it works. In fact, Craig, my wife and I last year launched an organization, a nonprofit called the Influence Lab.
Sure.
You can find that at influencelab.com. You and I have talked about this, and I want to make you a key player in this, where we want to do a number of things, but mostly we want to help change the perception of Christianity in the culture. And through media training, through PR, public relations, and publicity, highlighting the right things, getting the right spokesperson, people talking about issues that we face in the culture today. It's a huge job, and we're at the donor stage now looking for people to help support this effort. But the truth is, I think, we're going to surround ourselves with incredibly savvy people who understand how to engage culture. And I think that's a powerful, powerful way to make a difference.
We've been talking to Phil Cooke, leading producer, director, author, speaker. A wonderful conversation. We're going to continue this conversation in the next episode. We hope that you will join us. Thank you.
You've been listening to the 6 Ways to Sunday podcast with Craig D. Forrest, brought to you by Matchstick Media International, dedicated to excellence in media through inspiration, vision, and education. To learn more, visit us on the web at matchstickmedia.org. That's matchstickmedia.org. Your generous donations, large or small, help defray costs for producing this creative podcast. Thanks for listening and subscribing.